where he's a 15-year-old sophomore at Scarsdale High School. He told me he was diagnosed with Crohn's at the age of 11, and he'll share with us his experience with IBD and the background that led to the development of a foundation which he leads called Athletes versus Crohn's and Colitis. He co-founded that with Cleveland Cavaliers player Larry Nance Jr. Here for Larry. And the foundation's mission is to raise awareness of IBD in the adolescent population and to help children realize their potential despite being diagnosed with a chronic illness. So please join me in welcoming Noah Weber.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Dr. Denson. My name is Noah Weber. I'm 15 years old and I have Crohn's disease. I'm the co-founder of Athletes versus Crohn's and Colitis, and it is an honor to be here today on behalf of myself and Larry Nance Jr. I want to thank the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and Cincinnati's Children's Hospital for the privilege of speaking today.
I grew up swimming in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My coach is David Marsh, and I swim for Swim Back North Carolina. And I started swimming around 8 years old. I started out swimming summer league, and as a little kid, I just wanted to win every race, no matter what. And I think I got second, for the first time, ever in summer league. And I give you that red little ribbon, and I refused to hang it up in my room. I refused. I would never even keep it. I always only kept the blue ribbons. I was I don't want to even look at a second place. I just was so competitive as a little kid, and I think that's what makes most swimmers so successful is the competitiveness. I always have to wear my blue sparkle Uggs out for a race. No matter if it's a big meet, I have to wear them. They're sort of my shoes. I've had them since I was 15, and I have to wear them before my race. And I usually always swim in pearls. That's also my thing. But I was so nervous at trials for the finals. I took them out, which is so uncharacteristic of me. But I was so nervous. I was this could be the tenth of me making it or not. So I took them out in the ready room and put them in my sweat jacket just for that. I love swimming more than anything in the entire world, and I think that's what Crohn's has helped me learn. When you know something can be taken away from you, you appreciate it even more. So this is probably the best thing that could happen from making the Olympic team to me. Sharing that story means the world to me, and I've had so many parents reach out to me about their kids who have Crohn's and how much it's impacted their lives, because I really struggle with it being young and not having someone to look up to with who has accomplished something. I mean, there's such bad stories about it that I want it to be a good story about it.
August of 2016. I was not supposed to be on my couch watching TV that summer. I should have been where I spent my last 6 summers in the Adirondacks in upstate New York. Camp Echo Lake is a 7-week sleepaway camp, which over the years has become a second home to me and my sister. I spent each day at camp running from baseball to basketball to tennis, as well as cooling off in the lake. I learned life skills including how to fish, cook, camp, and even clean. Most importantly, Camp Echo Lake taught me how to be independent. Starting in April of 2015, that all started to change. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Getting to the diagnosis of Crohn's was far from easy. At first, I was tired, which held me back from playing a full game of basketball with my travel team. My parents thought I was simply out of shape. From there, we noticed I wasn't growing, and my shoe size had not changed for an entire year. I couldn't put on any weight, and I occasionally had some belly pain. We often attributed this to eating too much, too fast, or my mom's lousy cooking. My pediatrician at the time, Jody Ross, realized that something wasn't right. This is my actual growth chart. This is where our doctors record our height and weight to track our growth. You can see from ages 7, 8, and 9, I was on path to be taller than my dad, about the 50th percentile for height. Around the age of 10, I started to fall off the curve. As pointed by the red arrow, I went from the 50th percentile to about the 10th percentile for height. I basically stopped growing at 10 years old. Dr. Rawls told us that this is not normal, and so the testing began. First, I went to an endocrinologist. This is a doctor who specializes in hormones and growth. She did lots of blood tests and realized immediately that I needed a gastroenterologist. By the end of this appointment, the doctor told me and my parents that I could very well have Crohn's disease. This meant more tests. This included an MR interrography, an endoscopy, a colonoscopy and biopsy, and even swallowing a horse pill. Well, not exactly, but it seemed like one. It was actually a pill with a camera, also known as a capsule endoscopy. I recall my mom's reaction, a blank, teary-eyed stare. She seemed both uncertain and scared, and she's a doctor. For me, I really had no clue what this meant. I simply recall driving to basketball practice. My coach, who I developed a strong relationship over the years, would often ask me why I'm not growing. I now had an answer for him: Crohn's disease. My course with Crohn's at first was not easy. It took nearly 3 years of trial and error before finding a regimen that worked for me. It all started with an anaphylactic reaction to Remicade after the 3rd infusion. I was then switched to Humira. These were painful injections of Humira every Friday night with no impact on my Crohn's. For 1 year, every Friday night, my parents allowed me to curse as I got mentally prepared for the injection. Unfortunately, my Crohn's didn't respond and I was switched to Stelara. I was one of the first kids at my hospital to be treated with Stelara. Fortunately, these injections don't hurt and I only need to receive it once a month. I responded pretty well, but I still had some ongoing abdominal pain, bloating, difficulty sleeping, and low energy. This was due to a portion of my intestine still being inflamed. It wasn't until I required surgery, called an ileocolic resection, in January of 2018 that I went into remission. It was at this point that I finally started to feel good. I put on 26 pounds and 4 inches in the 4 to 6 months following my resection. This is me with my sister about 2 years ago, and then more recently. On a side note, that shirt I was wearing in 2016 still fits me today because steroids caused me to put on a lot of weight and my mom would buy me huge shirts. It wasn't long before I noticed I had my energy back. I was able to return to working out in sports within 8 weeks after my surgery. A crucial part to my story and my road to recovery has nothing to do with modern medicine, but all to do with inspiration. I was at a low the summer of 2016. I was home from sleepaway camp as I was changing medications, coming off of Humira, started on steroids, and awaiting Stelara. It was the first time in 6 summers that I was home. A lot of my friends were away at camp, and others were busy with activities all day. This made for pretty long days waiting for my parents to get home from work. I can remember watching TV where I felt like every other commercial was about a Crohn's or colitis medication that then listed every side effect associated with these medications. This was very anxiety-provoking. I'll never forget, however, my uncle's comment when I shared my fears. He said to me, "Well, at least they're not putting you on a medication that causes an erection for 4 hours." The summer dragged. I lost my independence. I felt out of place and alone. At the suggestion of my mom, I started to watch the Summer Olympics. My mom had been following the Olympics, and while at work one day, read an article on swimmer Kathleen Baker, who was participating in the Olympics and also happened to have Crohn's disease. My mother couldn't wait to tell me. Coincidentally, she would be swimming in the evenings, the time of day I spent at home with my parents. On August 8th, 2016, Kathleen Baker won an Olympic medal for swimming in Rio de Janeiro. She hopped out of the pool and thanked her doctors for helping her get into competitive form for the Olympics. I was a little perplexed as to why she was thanking her doctors and nurses. I thought about it and asked my parents, who explained to me that given her Crohn's disease, she needed a large medical team to help her get prepared. An Olympic athlete with Crohn's disease had just won a medal at the Olympics. I was inspired. Within minutes, I took to the internet and literally typed in professional athletes with Crohn's disease. Well, guess what? There aren't that many. It It is very difficult to compete at a professional level with a chronic illness. That's the reality. But there were some. I scanned the list, and as soon as my eyes caught Larry Nance Jr., I stopped. I recognized Larry's name from playing many hours video game NBA 2K. I started Googling Larry Nance Jr. I looked him up on the web, I looked him up on Instagram, bam. There he was, a power forward for the Los Angeles Lakers, a professional basketball player who was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at the age of 16. Larry had decided to share his story in a USA Today article in 2016, his senior year at the University of Wyoming. He had spoken about his struggles with Crohn's as a teenager. We shared an eerily similar story. He was not growing. Okay, it's all relative. He was almost 6 feet when diagnosed, and I was only 4'6". But in his family, he was small. He lacked energy and also wanted to quit sports. I was able to relate to him. In the USA Today article, Larry talked about how he too was looking for a mentor. When first diagnosed, he went to the internet and found David Garrard. David Garrard was a standout quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who also had Crohn's disease. Having never met Garrard as a teenager, Larry would walk around with David's jersey in his gym bag as inspiration. I decided to reach out to Larry via Instagram direct message. Though my mom told me it was very possible he might not see the message, I still thought it was worth a try. The message read, "Hey Larry, I previously read your article on Crohn's. I myself was diagnosed with Crohn's about 2 years ago at age 11. I was put on prednisone and Remicade as you mentioned you were in your article. I have recently switched medications. My doctor taking care of me is Marla Dubinsky, who moved from Cedars-Sinai to here in New York. I have a passion for both baseball and basketball. Although I wasn't blessed with a 6'10" former pro basketball player father, mine being a 5'9" surgeon, I still love playing both sports. My chances of making the NBA or MLB are slim, but knowing that doesn't stop me from playing what I love. Crohn's hasn't held me back from doing much, besides the occasional pain and needing to go to doctor's appointments 45 minutes away. I don't think I would be able to make it out to LA to watch you play, but I'd love to see you play here in New York in person. You are an inspiration to my family and me and the whole Crohn's community. Good luck to you on your season. I will be rooting for you. It would be great to hear back from you, from Noah." With a little help from some friends, Larry got wind of my message, and within a few weeks surprised me with a phone call.
Hey, Noah, this is Larry Nance.
Hi. Oh my goodness.
As you can see, I was starstruck. It was mostly a one-sided conversation with my jaw to the ground. But I listened carefully. Larry told me his story and spoke about how medication, dedication, and inspiration all changed his life. That one phone call and Larry Nance Jr. changed my life. To make a really long story short, after my phone call with Larry, he invited me to a game while the Lakers were in New York. He said he wanted to get more involved with kids with IBD, and we made plans to meet the next time he was in New York. It was then that I shared with him my ideas about athletes versus Crohn's and colitis. He took it on, and we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. We have a full-time employee, Casey Nance, and we have raised over $100,000 to date. Our mission is to raise awareness of Crohn's and colitis in the adolescent population and help children realize their athletic potential despite being diagnosed with a chronic illness. Our goals are to connect young people afflicted with Crohn's or colitis to athletes who have overcome similar challenges and who will mentor them and inspire them to succeed. The first slide on the left is taken from our Noah's Cronies event. At this event, we host a group of IBD patients at Madison Square Garden and their families for an evening of talking, exchanging stories, and food. We end the evening with a meet and greet with Larry. The middle picture is one of our awareness events where AVC hosts a pregame event together for kids and families with IBD. The last picture is from our Larry's Leaders program. Throughout the season, Larry invites IBD patients and their families for a pregame meet and greet and the opportunity to share their IBD experiences. Another goal is to provide scholarships to high school student athletes who are challenged by IBD. In the slide on the left, our first AVC scholarship went to Joe Cantino, a standout high school football player who played a significant role in leading his team to win the state championship. The photo on the right is a picture of our second scholarship winner, Hunter Moran. He's a star high school volleyball player and a captain of his team. Lastly, we work to direct funds towards research and a cure for Crohn's and colitis. On the left, we recently presented a $25,000 check to my doctor, Marla Dubinsky, to help support the pediatric IBD program at Mount Sinai Hospital, New York. And we also made a similar donation to Larry's doctor a week later in Cleveland to support the IBD program at Cleveland Clinic. So you may ask, what do all these people up here have in common? The obvious answer would be that they have Crohn's or colitis, but most importantly, they share a common characteristic: resilience. Resilience is the dynamic process through which an individual can adaptively overcome a stressful and/or traumatic event while maintaining relatively normal physical or psychological function over time. Or more simply put, resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Another word that goes hand in hand with resilience is grit. Grit is the ability to persevere when you face obstacles. At Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, where I am taken care of, Dr. Dennis Charney is the dean of the medical school. He's a world expert on the treatment of mood and anxiety disorders with a focus on how resilience can help people overcome their depression. They are starting to understand how resilience can help people overcome all sorts of adversity, including chronic illness, such as Crohn's and colitis. Dr. Dennis Charney illustrates this in a 10-step prescription for resilience. Dr. Dennis Charney, number 1 is to keep a positive attitude. Number 2, refrain from stressful thoughts. 3, develop your moral compass. 4, find a resilient role model. 5, face your fears. 6, develop active coping skills. 7, establish and nurture a supportive social network. 8, prioritize your physical well-being. 9, train your brain. And 10, play to your strengths. Though I hope many of these characteristics came through in my talk, I still work every day on becoming more resilient. When I'm having a bad day, whether that be physically or emotionally, I believe I rely on some of the 10-step prescription for resilience. First, I look for support. That may be spending time with some of my 12 cousins, my grandparents, or just spending time with friends. Try not to engage in stressful thoughts by distracting myself with things I like to do. This could be playing video games such as Fortnite, NBA 2K, or Apex Legends, cooking. This could be dinner for my family, watching TV, whether this be the Cavs game or my favorite Netflix series, or lastly, going outside and shooting hoops. I also try to prioritize my physical well-being by playing 3 different sports. Most recently, I found motivation through regular exercise by working out with my endurance trainer, Daryl. I also have tried to face my fears most recently by having frank conversations with both my parents and my surgeon when I was getting ready for my operation. I've insisted in being involved and understanding all aspects of my care, which can be scary sometimes. Perhaps, most importantly, I identified a resilient role model. For me, it happened to be a professional athlete. For any of us in the room, it could be someone who you can relate to, respect, and look up to. Even though our mission for Athletes vs. Crohn's says that we want to help children realize their athletic potential despite being diagnosed with a chronic illness, we also stress that we want to help children reach their full potential at any level, whether that's on the field, the stage, or even the classroom, no matter what their interests are. The next slide is a message from Larry. He wanted to be here today, but he has a game in Cleveland this afternoon. He recorded a message that he wants me to share with you.
Hi, Cincinnati. This is Larry Nance, co-founder of Athletes vs. Crohn's and forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm sure Noah has done an outstanding job of explaining the story of Athletes vs. Crohn's and how we came to be and our mission statement, where we're looking to go. It's kids like him that really made me want to come out and tell my story and be the face of this disease. Because I remember being in his shoes and looking for inspiration to show me that, hey, can I do this? Can I reach my goals and of at any level and still do it despite being diagnosed with a chronic disease? For me, it was David Garrard, quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, that I kind of used as my North Star and guiding light to say that, like, hey, I don't have to be a trailblazer. You can do this. You just got to fight through and make the best days really count. And Noah and his family have really helped me in finding a direction and a platform on how to do that. And that's through Athletes vs. Crohn's. And you know, I'm just thrilled that Noah's there talking to you guys and bringing light, shedding awareness, and you know, hopefully, you know, catching some hearts and minds and turning them towards our project. So just want to say thank you guys for hearing us speak, and go Cavs.
Many people, including my doctor, have asked me if I could give back Crohn's, would I? I think my mom would give it back in a heartbeat. My answer is no. Unless, of course, you ask me the night before a colonoscopy, I might say yes. But the truth is that Crohn's has really made me into the person that I am today. It has made me tougher and more focused. It has given me strength that I didn't know I had. I see that I can persevere despite setbacks. I think I am more resilient than most people, kids and adults, and I try not to sweat the small stuff. I think it has made me more empathetic and sympathetic. In addition, I've met so many amazing people that I never would have met who have all had such an impact on me. Most importantly, if I didn't have Crohn's, I never would have met Larry, and he has changed my life in all the best ways. And we hope together we can change lives of others living with IBD. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your attention.